Courier News and the Star Ledger and filed with the clerk in the Township of Bridgewater and posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board. Please be aware of the Zoning Board adjustment policy for public hearings. No new applications will be heard after 9:30 p.m. and no new testimony will be taken after 10. If you're able, please rise for the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Roger. Good to have you back. Get a roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to open up the meeting to members of the public that would like to speak on any land use matter that is not on our agenda this evening. Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion. We have no resolutions for approval tonight. And Rich, if you could take us through an update on the timing of, I have Belly, CX Towers, Starbucks, and 1200 Route 22 land investors.
Those are all being carried on the agenda without further notice, with the exception of CX Towers. That will be with new notice,
Okay.
and it's really unclear if they'll be continuing on July 23rd, as we show on here, but whenever that date is, it will be on notice.
All right. And with that, we're going to move on to land use applications. First up, we have 273 Hancock Avenue. Hi, Mr. Osterman. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Michael Osterman appearing on behalf of the applicants, Andrew and Mary Spizak. Mr. and Mrs. Spizak own certain property located at 273 Hancock Avenue and identified as Block 115, Lot 25 on the township's tax maps. The applicants have applied for a floor area ratio variance to allow the construction of an addition to their existing home on the subject property. That addition will include a first floor bedroom with a handicap bathroom, as well as an enlarged handicap accessible kitchen. The proposed addition to the applicant's home has become necessary because Mrs. Spizak has been diagnosed with a medical condition that will require her to have a first floor bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen with handicap access. In the applicant's existing home, all of the bedrooms currently are on the second floor and none are on the first floor, and none of the bedrooms have handicap access. The existing home is 2,966 square feet, including the basement. The lot area of the subject property is 19,870 square feet, and the existing floor area ratio is 0.149. Under the ordinance, the maximum permitted FAR is 0.16. With the addition proposed by the applicants, the floor area ratio would increase to 0.179, which will necessitate a variance. The way I'd like to proceed this evening is to call three witnesses. First, I'd like to call Mr. Andrew Sack, the applicant, regarding the need for this addition, and he's going to testify regarding issues that have come up in the review reports. Second, I'd like to call Mr. Eric Trepkow, the applicant's architect, who prepared the plans that are before you this evening. And finally, I'd like to call Ms. Elizabeth McManus, a professional planner, who will address the proofs for the required variance. If I may, I'd like to call my first witness.
One housekeeping.
Certainly.
Let's just check jurisdiction and notice real
Yes,
quick.
The applicant did submit their notices in proper form, certified mail to each of the homeowners within 200 feet, and published in the newspaper 12th, so we have jurisdiction.
Great, and you want to swear everybody in?
Why don't you bring them all up here?
Okay, if all the witnesses could come on up.
You would all just raise your right hands, please. You will solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay, and just for the record, would you each state your name?
Elizabeth McManus.
Eric Trepko.
Andy Sack.
Catherine Zammit.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, Andy? No, I think you're good.
Hi, I'm Andy Sack. Just a little history.
You know what? Why don't I lead you through some questions?
Oh, okay.
He was doing great, though.
Are you and your wife, Mary, the owners of the subject property for this application located at 273 Hancock Avenue?
Yes, we are.
And
We need microphones.
certainly, sorry. How long have you owned that property?
October will be 40 years.
And have you and your wife lived in that house the entire time that you've owned it?
Yes, we have.
Okay. How many bedrooms are in that house?
There are 4 bedrooms, 2 of which we're presently using. One for me and my wife and one for my daughter.
Are any of those existing bedrooms located on the first floor, or are
Nope.
all of them on the second floor?
All of them on the second floor.
And that includes your master bedroom, I assume. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you please explain to us why you're proposing an addition to your house at this time?
Okay. Back in 2019, my wife was initially diagnosed with a degenerative neurological disorder. But she was functional and she didn't need assistance. So moving the clock up, current time, she is now in need of assistance doing quite a bit of movement disorder. And getting up to the second floor for bathing or for sleeping is starting to become a real challenge, afraid of any fall risk. So she recently went to a neurological specialist associated with movement disorders, and the neurologist identified her on a scale of 1 to 5 as 4 in terms of clinical disability. 5 meaning she will require a wheelchair. So obviously with that background, we're asking for this variance in terms of allowing a handicap bathroom, a bedroom that's large enough to equip the bed as well as some physical therapy devices or a table, and also enlarge our kitchen for access. So your consideration and approval would be greatly appreciated.
Now, Mr. Psack, did you hire an architect to design the proposed improvements to your home?
Yes, I did, Eric, who's sitting and will be giving testimony.
In the joint engineering and planning memo that we received from the township pertaining to this application, the engineer has said that the applicant should provide details related to the existing stormwater drainage and the location of where the stormwater runoff is presently directed. I'd like to discuss that with you.
Sure.
First of all, did you install an above-ground pool in your backyard in the late 1990s?
Yes.
And did you regrade your backyard a bit to accommodate that pool?
There was dirt removed out of it to place the pool there, so yes.
Okay. And when was that pool removed?
The pool was removed following Hurricane Sandy, where a huge white pine squished the pool. So we had to have the tree removed, the pool removed, and obviously we then regraded the land so that it fit naturally back to its appearance. And that was in 2012 was the hurricane, so I would venture to say 2013 that pool was removed.
And after the pool was removed and the regrading was done, did you begin to notice a ponding problem in your backyard when you got a lot of rain?
I really don't know what particular event caused it, but ponding was a problem after that time, that I let go for a couple years, and when finally I decided to put up a fence in my yard, I said, well, I might as well try to address that as well with our landscaper that we hired at the time.
And did you eventually have a discussion with the Township Engineering Department about the situation, the drainage situation in your backyard?
Yes, when I applied for the fence, it's a 6-foot privacy fence at the back of my yard. I don't know the lady I was talking to, but I mentioned some of the other activities that I was asking the landscaper to do, and that was to regrade the back of the yard in terms of having the fence somewhat of a straight line. Also address pooling, or ponding is the term going on. And also, they would be doing hydro seeding after the event. And also, there were some invasive weeds that I have in the far right-hand corner of my backyard. They're called Japanese knotweed. Hopefully, you guys don't have it. But I actually asked them to dig a 3-foot trench along the back of the yard so that it stops any of the root system from coming in from my neighbors, because I tried to remove a lot of the root system. So there was a couple items being addressed by the landscaper. It's a long story short, sorry.
Right, and
But when I
the
applied, when
drainage.
I applied, I mentioned that, that's right, the person for the application of the fence, and they wanted me to consult with an engineer called Chip Mills in terms of the ponding and make sure he's in agreement with how the landscaper was going to handle it. So there was a lot of back and forth conversation. And we finally agreed on the approach. Chip was, I do have a manhole cover in the back of my yard that he was addressing, possibly taking off the closed manhole cover and put a slotted one there, but I told him that it's a little bit, the water line is a little bit below the manhole, and my landscaper was proposing putting catch basins in ground, maybe 2 foot underground with a 12 by 12 catch basin installed, and that would drain underground to, I also have a head wall for the storm system on the back right hand of my land, and that would drain into the inlet of the head wall. And it seems to have done the trick.
so I want to show you a map, and
Yes, that was the existing survey at the time when I had applied, applied for the fence permit.
okay.
Chip?
You do, and we're going to have, I have copies for everyone, and we'll get it marked in a moment. I just have a few questions about it before we mark it. So that map is based on a survey of your property, and you provided that to your landscaper, is that correct?
Well, I provided it to the, as part of the application permit, and obviously Chip Mills
Okay.
had access to it, yes.
Right, so you submitted it to the town?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
So you gave them that survey, and did the township add information and give it back to you with the blue line
Yes.
shown on there?
Yes, the uniqueness of the lot is my neighbor has, well, we have a storm system that comes from the street through his easement. There's a storm system, and there's a manhole cover on his lot, and it crosses over diagonally at the back of my yard to the sewer system under the easement that's housed at the back of my yard. So he drew the blue line. I don't know if people are seeing it.
Well, they will in a moment.
Okay,
Give it to them.
on this survey.
Right, and you had mentioned a head wall and drainage inlet. I think there's a head wall with a drainage inlet. Is that shown on the survey?
Yes, it is, and the very far back right.
Okay. And does that inlet from the head wall flow into the storm drainage pipes that run under the back of your property?
Yes.
Okay. Now, your landscaper proposed a solution to the ponding problem, and what was that?
Install, as I had mentioned, 2 catch basins that would take in the water, and he dug a pipe, 4-inch PVC pipe that went to the head wall and drained into that inlet, the swale or swale that exists there. So that water is running underground and adding to the storm system.
And is that shown on that plan?
Yes, I tried to identify it a little bit below the blue line that Chip identified as 2 squares and a little red line going to the head wall.
And you added that?
I added that
You added that,
myself
okay.
this weekend, yes.
And that is a copy of the map showing all of those things?
That is correct.
Okay. I'd like to see if we could get that marked, and I'd pass out copies. For the record, I've just marked that one-page plan or sheet, A1, and dated at 6/25/24. Who should hold on to this? Should I hold on to it, or would the board like it? Sure.
I have a copy. Just need to make sure it's marked, that's all, Roger. A1 with today's date.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. With regard, Mr. Pizak, to the drainage inlets and pipe that you just mentioned, were those discussed with the township engineer, with Mr., it wasn't township engineer, I'm sorry, Mr. Mills, who was the manager of the engineering department at the township at the time?
Yes, I did share with him the landscaper's description of what he was doing, and then after some back and forth about possibly using the manhole opening for the water runoff, he did eventually agree that that would be the best solution for the catch basin.
And after those 2 catch basins and that drainage pipe were installed, did that solve the ponding problem that you had?
I have not seen it since, so yes, it did.
Okay.
I'm happy.
Okay. So essentially, tell me if this is correct, all of the stormwater runoff on your property or in your backyard, at least, runs to those drainage basins and into the pipe and then into the storm sewer?
Yes.
Is that correct? And will that be the case with this addition?
My assumption is yes.
Okay. Now, if this application is approved, will the applicant agree to obtain an individual lot grading permit prior to the issuance of a construction permit as requested in item 4 on page 7 of the joint engineering and planning
Yes.
memo? Okay. One more question on this topic. With respect to the stormwater that was ponding in your backyard and that now drains into the 2 catch basins that you installed, does or did any of that stormwater run onto the property and impact any of your neighbors? In other words, run onto the neighboring properties and impact any of the neighbors?
No, the back of my yard somewhat has like a little valley. There's a little lip at the top, and it comes down, and then the backyard runs this. So it's all catching here, unless that pond was suffering some substantial rain. It wouldn't go into the back of my neighbors, or the sides for
Okay.
that. I think this one neighbor on my side, I think they had a pool installed, and I think whenever they backwash their pool, their water comes to my lot, and it drains now. And then on the other side, he has no problems with any kind of water.
Okay.
So it's all contained.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Board questions? Seeing none. Members of the public that would like to question Mr. Sack on his testimony? All right, seeing none. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, sorry.
Are the catch basins you're describing, are they shown on the survey as outlets in the middle of the of the property?
Can you see the red below the blue line? It's like where it says 104.43.
Okay.
There's two little boxes there.
That's the catch basins that you installed?
I had them installed. Those are the two catch basins. They're approximately 7 or 8 feet apart.
Okay.
The line there is 52 feet is the mid part of the yard.
Okay.
And the catch basin is like 8 feet in, and then the second catch basin is another 7 or 8 feet in. And then the line underground goes to the head wall.
Okay. Do you know on your survey what the outlets are in the middle of the property?
When you say the outlet.
It's marked as outlets.
Oh, I'm assuming, again, this is what Chip gave me. That back easement runs several houses down.
Okay.
And I think that's where the sewer system just keeps on running several houses down. So that's what I think the notation of outlets, several houses south. Maybe it's emptying down that way.
Okay. Has the manhole ever overflown or anything during like a large storm event, large rain event?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just share one comment that Chip was in agreement with this approach. His only comment was, if ever we should have such a deluge that it overruns the sewer system, he just said that PVC pipe that has our catch basin, that may start flowing the other way. But that would be like, in my mind, the Armageddon with rain.
It sounds like the storm easement, the pipe underneath there is working. It's working well. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Psek. I'd like to call Mr. Eric Trepkow. Is that working?
It's sound activated, so you got to give it another try.
If you want, you can sit down. Use that one. Mr. Trepkow, good evening. Could you please summarize for the board your professional qualifications?
Yes, I'm a New Jersey licensed architect. I've been licensed in state for 24 years. I've had my own business for the last 21 years. I'm licensed in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut.
Is your license current in New Jersey?
Excuse me?
Your license current in New Jersey now?
Do I have it with me?
Current.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You're spelling of your last name?
Trepkau.
I'd like to ask that Mr. Trepkow be accepted as an expert in the field of architecture.
Board accepted.
Thank you, sure. Mr. Trepkow, were you retained by the applicants in connection with this project?
Yes, I was.
And did you design the proposed improvements to the applicant's home that are shown on the plans that have been submitted to the board?
Yes, I did.
Would you please walk us through those plans and describe the proposed improvements?
Absolutely.
And just for the record, the boards that you're holding are just the plans that have been submitted to the board mounted?
These are the plans that have been submitted, yes. They're just mounted on a board. Basically, good evening. My name is Eric Trepkow. I'm a New Jersey licensed architect. I designed this project, and I'm before you this evening to request permission to build a one-story addition to the rear of this home. The purpose of the addition is to create accessible living space for my client's spouse. As you heard, she has a degenerative disease that is making it difficult for her to navigate the house. As it is now, the bedrooms and the bathing facilities are on the second floor, and stairs are difficult to navigate. So she's not in a wheelchair as of yet, but we're planning this project for the future. So I've designed this project to be wheelchair accessible, and that starts at access to the house. Right now, access would be through the front door, which is up several steps, and steps are difficult right now. So we've designed a sidewalk that wraps around the side of the house and goes to the rear. That sidewalk connects to a new proposed ramp. The ramp will connect from the sidewalk up to a new deck. The deck would be used for accessible living space and also to access the house in the rear. On sheet A1 is the layout of the floor plan, and you basically access the ramp up to the deck, and the deck would be set at the same level as the first floor, so it would be really easy to roll into the house through rear sliding glass doors. Once you'd enter the house, we're proposing a slightly larger kitchen. The kitchen has been designed for wheelchair access and also to open into the rear of the house, creating a open floor plan in the rear to make flow good and ease of navigation. But the bulk of the project was to create first floor accessible bedroom and bathroom facilities. So that is this area of the addition. Basically, you'd access a hallway space off of the kitchen, and from there, you'd be able to access the rear bedroom, the bathroom, and closet space. The bathroom and the bedroom have all been designed for wheelchair maneuverability, so there's some room around the bed and around exercise equipment, and that extra space also leads into the bathroom, where that's designed for handicap accessibility, for turning radius within the space, and easy access to the toilet, the sink, and the shower, which has been designed as a roll-in type shower. So as part of this project, my client and I discussed many different options to get the space that they need while working within the parameters of the existing or the allowable zoning. So I've designed the project to meet the setbacks. It meets the side yard and the rear yard setback. It meets the lot coverage. It's well under the maximum lot coverage, but the issue with this property is with the floor area ratio. So as it is now, we have a slightly undersized lot. The lot, as it is now, it's 19,870 square feet, where the minimum is 20,000. So we're starting out less than what's required. And my floor area ratio calculation is on sheet T1, where the first floor area is 1,064. The second floor area is 1,003, and the basement is 899 for a total of 2,966 square feet.
That's the existing home, correct?
That's the existing home, exactly. And when that's divided by the lot area, which is 19,870, we get a floor area ratio of 0.149. So that's the existing conditions as it is now. And in this zone, the maximum floor area ratio allowed is 0.16. So to figure out the maximum floor area allowed on this property, you would multiply the lot area times 0.16, and you would get 3,179 square feet. That subtracted by our existing floor area of 2,966, we'd get a remaining 213 square feet that we could work within without exceeding the maximum. So my client and I soon realized that 213 square feet is not enough space to get the area that he needs. 213 square feet, we could maybe add a bedroom, or we can add the bathroom, or maybe extend the kitchen, but we certainly can't do all three within that area. So we are asking permission to build an addition that is 606 square feet. So that added to our existing 2,966 square feet gives us a total area of 3,572 square feet. And that divided by our lot area gives us a floor area ratio of 0.179. And that works out to be 393 square feet over the maximum. So a little bit less than 400 square feet we're asking permission to build. So as I said, the project conforms to the side yards and the rear yard setback. It conforms to the lot area, and the addition is really tucked away in the back of this house. Very little of it will be visible from the street. There's only a small piece that kind of extends out past the one corner. So you're really not going to see much at all from the street. I've designed this to look like this, where I tried to design this project to match and to blend in with the existing house that's there. It's a kind of a typical colonial house, and I took design cues for this addition off of the existing house, as far as like roof lines and windows and things like that. But basically, the rear addition would be the bedroom area. This is the kitchen extension with the sliding door for access. There's windows at the kitchen sink. And from the opposing sides, the left side has the ramp and the staircase and the deck. This is the bedroom, and this is the kitchen extension. And then from the opposing side, this bump out is for the bathroom, and this extension is part of the bedroom. So I tried to work with the house and make it blend in and be as it should be there. One other feature, I dropped the roof lines down below the level of the existing second floor windows. And this house will have matching siding, it'll have matching roofing, so it's all supposed to kind of blend together. Lastly, lighting, exterior lighting, we're really proposing very minimal lighting. There'll be a wall-mounted light fixture to each side of the sliding glass door. And then we're also proposing some low-voltage lighting around the perimeter of the deck and on the ramp, just to highlight the edges. And those low-voltage lights will be pointed down. So I guess in conclusion, I tried to design this project as compact and as minimal as possible while getting the space that my client needs for his spouse to make her life easier and better.
Just a few follow-up questions. Did you receive and review a copy of the joint engineering and planning report dated June 19th that we received
Yes.
for this application? And I'd like to ask you about just a few follow-up items from that report. In the engineering section of Part D on page 5 of 7 of that report, the report asks that a note be added to the plans to clarify that this is a minor development for stormwater management. Is that, I assume
That's very easy to do, sure.
Okay, sure. Item F3 of the report asks about whether an existing shed can be moved. Is there an existing shed on this property?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I believe the shed is on the neighbor's property.
All right. On page 6 of 7, engineering item number 1 asks if trees are proposed to be removed as part of this project. Can you address that?
There's a small tree in the middle of the property that we're trying to preserve. We're not proposing taking any trees down.
Okay. And lastly, miscellaneous comment number 3 on page 7 of 7 references the township's required construction mitigation measures. If this application is approved, would the applicant agree to comply with those required
Yes.
mitigation measures?
Yes, correct.
No further questions.
Board questions?
I have one.
Please, Mrs. Amin.
At present, when you go into the house, to get into the kitchen area, are there any steps that are?
No, the
not any
deck will
steps.
be at the same level as the first floor, so it'll be a continuous flush connection.
So if you didn't have that big walkway going around into the deck,
Correct.
the person can still go into the house and still go into the kitchen and the bedroom that will be added in.
Yes, yeah, the deck is part of the access to the rear of the house. And it's also going to be used for outdoor living space.
So the long deck, that walkway that is going up into the deck,
Yeah, there's a sidewalk that'll wrap around the house that'll lead to a ramp, and the ramp goes up to the deck, and the deck aligns with the first floor.
okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Board professional.
I have one question, and this is just more about the calculation of the FAR. The basement, you noted on the plans and in your testimony, is 899 square feet. Is that area completely finished, or is part of it unfinished?
It's all storage space that's unfinished.
Oh, well, in that case, if they wasn't shown on the plans, our ordinance really doesn't capture unfinished space. I don't know if you calculated based on the ceiling height.
Ceiling height.
Ceiling height, which captured it. Generally, we don't really, and this is more just to the board's edification too, we generally don't include unfinished spaces.
I didn't think they needed to be here.
They might, you probably don't, I mean, we can do it for their testimonies on, but there was no plans, no floor plans for each of the different levels, just the floor that you were the first floor that you were proposing to change. I apologize that didn't come up sooner, but
This is an opaque rule, and this has happened for years, and it's not very clear. And in some cases, it's very clear. This happens to be one of them where, when I first read it, I wondered if they needed to be here as well.
I assumed, and I probably shouldn't have done that, I assumed that because they included the square footage for the basement, that it was probably all a finished space based on how the ordinance reads. FAR is challenging in residential zones because of that, because there are areas of basements that are used but not finished, and so I'll let you take the charge, or Mr. Aller take the charge on how we should proceed.
I'd like to finish this up, and, I think we can move this on. I mean, your architecture testimony, I mean, you should write a book on how to testify in front of zoning boards. It's perfect. I mean, it's not a question that we had. Why don't we get your next witness up and take quick deliberations and...
Thank you. And the only thing I'll say is, while the basement isn't finished now, if the variance is granted, it could be
That's
finished
the benefit
either by
you're gonna
this applicant or by a future owner with that
And
FAR.
I agree with that. I think that if you seek just to be conservative, in the case that the basement is partially finished or whatever, move forward, seek the variance approval before the board, and to be conservative, we can make sure that.
The fact that it is opaque, and if you do finish, as Catherine said, a portion of it, it kind of does trigger that, but what's finished, and it's a very opaque term. I mean, we've had this problem in the past, and it's probably something that we're doing master plan revisions. Maybe we should take
We are.
a
We
peek
are
at
looking at it. Yeah.
and codify that and make it clear. So with that, it's your case, but I'd like to kind of move this on and we'll get to deliberations, and you can kind of get the
Yeah, we have one witness left, Ms. McManus. And the last time she was here, we had to skip her because you didn't need to hear from her. I don't want her to get a complex, so it would be nice if she could.
We have one board member question.
Yeah, the unfinished basement.
Yes.
So there's no HVAC, heat, or air conditioning in that space, correct?
Is there any HVAC or heating or air conditioning in the basement?
Yes.
There is?
Yes,
There is.
There is.
Okay. So,
I'm good.
thank you.
Good evening, folks.
Beth, if you could please summarize for the board your professional qualifications?
Sure. I'm a licensed planner in New Jersey, as well as I hold my AICP. Been practicing land use since 2001. My licenses are both in good standing. I am a principal at Kyle McManus Associates, and throughout my work in New Jersey for more than 20 years, I spent a lot of time doing municipal board representation, but I've also testified in approximately 50 municipalities, including Bridgewater a handful of times. Other places include, let's see, Raritan Township, Piscataway, Trenton, Long Hill, Clinton Township, and a couple dozen other communities.
I would ask that the board accept her as an expert in the field of land use planning. Thank you. Ms. McManus, were you retained by the applicants to analyze the planning justifications for this variance?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the subject property, and have you been to the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. And before you go into your planning analysis, do you have any exhibits that you would like to
Yes.
present to the board?
I do. I have an aerial photograph.
Okay, so maybe we can have that marked. I guess that would be A2? A2, okay. And we'll pass that out. For the record, Exhibit A2, dated 6/25/24, is a 2024 aerial photo and tax parcel base map prepared by Colin McManus Associates. Okay, Ms. McManus, would you please share with us your planning analysis for this application?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We're here for two reasons. Technically, I do want to highlight the fact that we do have a minimum lot area variance. We're under the lot area just a little bit. We are in the R20 district, which has a minimum lot area of 20,000 square feet. Our existing and the proposed lot area is 19,870 square feet, so about 130 square feet shy. That, of course, is a long-time existing condition. And we are also here, of course, for an FAR variance, which I am happy about in a sense, since I did some prep work. So I thought I would focus on the FAR variance, I think for obvious reasons. And while this is a use variance, of course, this is not the typical use variance with the typical positive and negative criteria that you see for prohibited uses. Instead, the FAR criteria has some different requirements associated with it as a result of case law that's happened. And the principal question for boards to consider and for folks like me to testify to is whether or not the property can accommodate the additional floor area that's associated with the FAR variance. Can the impacts of the FAR or the excess floor area be accommodated on the property? And then, of course, the second part of that criteria or that analysis is whether there's any substantial detriment to the zone plan or, of course, to the public good, to the neighboring area. And so I do think that this property on Hancock Avenue can easily accommodate the increased floor area of about 393 square feet. That's the area that we're over on the maximum FAR. And just for context, that 393 square feet, it's about the size of 2 parking spaces, just to put that in your mind. But beyond the area calculation, I think that the home and the property and this neighborhood really can accommodate the increased floor area. And I say that for a handful of reasons. The first thing I think that the board can consider is the fact that the front of the home is not going to change. And so we're fundamentally not altering the character of this home and how it's going to fit within the neighborhood. And more specifically, our addition is almost entirely behind to the rear of the home. There's only about 3.5 feet that's going to extend towards the northern side property line, and a little bit less than that, maybe around 2 feet, that is going to extend beyond the chimney on that property. And so in terms of visibility from Hancock Avenue, it's going to have very limited visibility. But in addition to that, and if you take a look at the aerial photograph that's been distributed, you can start to get a sense as to just how many trees are located on this site. And the trees provide further screening of the addition as you travel north or south, as motorists go, or pedestrians go along Hancock Avenue. And so as folks are traveling towards the south, their view of the rear yard is very much going to be screened by these existing trees. I don't want to suggest that it's going to be invisible, but I do think it's going to screen, and it's really going to filter and somewhat block the view for motorists as well as for neighbors. And the same thing will occur for folks traveling from the south going north, although there are less trees. But I do want to note that the addition is closer to the northern side property line than the southern side property line. And so I think what that means is significantly less visibility along Hancock for those across the street and on either side along Hancock. In addition to the trees and the fact that the addition is at the rear of the home, we also have a privacy fence around the rear yard, and that will further block the view of the neighbors, and in particular, because we have a single-story addition at the rear rather than a 2-story addition. And of course, the trees in the backyard, which we just had testimony on, will remain, and those two will provide some screening of the addition, in particular from neighbors to the rear. The other thing I want to highlight about the application and the way that the property can accommodate the variance is the fact that the only variance that is triggered by the addition is the FAR. Oftentimes, when applicants require FAR variances, it's not just the FAR, it's setbacks and coverage, et cetera. But here, it is just the FAR. We meet all of the setback requirements. In fact, our front yard setback's not going to change, and we have a little bit of excess on both the north and the south side yards. I think about 2 feet to the north and about 9 feet to the south. And then, of course, the rear yard where our addition is going, we have about 72 feet to the rear property line, whereas the setback is only 50 feet. And so we're very easily able to stay within those setbacks. I also want to note that we don't need a lot coverage variance. In fact, we're proposing a lot coverage of 21.1% instead of, or not instead of, but, and you can compare that to the 25% that is permitted in the district. And then last, in terms of bulk standards, our building height right now is 27 feet, and the maximum permitted in the district is 35 feet, and that will not change. And so this is it's not a story of a building getting bigger in all ways, it's just simply extending out the back, and the front will largely remain unchanged. In terms of the neighborhood and how this addition is going to fit within the neighborhood, in addition to having very limited visibility, the other thing I wanted to highlight is the fact that this is not a neighborhood that is developed with cookie-cutter homes. Many of the homes, yes, they have a colonial architecture, but there is diversity in there, and you can start to get a sense with the aerial, you can see the varying roof lines, varying roof colors. But one of the configurations that is pretty consistent throughout the neighborhood is that they have single-story attached garages. And that is one of the defining features in terms of the building mass that you see in this neighborhood, and that too will not change as a result of this application. Additionally, as is the case with a lot of FAR variances, boards and folks like myself should think about the additional activity from the property, but here, there's no additional activity. This is not even intended to accommodate a growing family. Instead, it's really just intended to accommodate the existing residents at the property and to help them do so, to help them really age in place. We also, I also want to highlight the purpose of FAR. And so in particular for residential areas, the purpose is to ensure that the building mass does not exceed that which is appropriate, where setbacks and lot coverage and maybe building height alone can't properly regulate the appropriate building size or ensure that new construction is appropriate in terms of its size and building mass. And to make sure that a new home is not out of character with the surrounding homes. But here, despite the fact that we do need that variance, I don't think that we're in conflict with the purpose. And I say that again because our addition is at the rear. It's only a single story. We're maintaining or exceeding the minimum setbacks. We're within the minimum setbacks. And then again, we have significant vegetation on the property that's going to help soften the views of the site, both from the rear neighbors, the side neighbors, and for those along Hancock Avenue. And so for those reasons, I think that the addition can easily be accommodated on the property. But in addition to that, I also took a look at the township's master plan to determine if there was any language that was particularly appropriate or would provide some guidance. And I don't see language in your current master plan that addresses this specific issue or building sizes in this specific residential district. But what I do see is a land use objective that I think is relevant. It is to preserve and enhance the residential character of the township by protecting established neighborhoods, addressing quality of life issues, promoting a diversity of housing choices, and then going on to talk about infill housing, which is not applicable here. But the important language that I see there is preserving and enhancing the residential character of neighborhoods and promoting diversity of housing choices. And I think that's exactly what we're doing here. We have an addition that is not going to disturb or disrupt that existing residential character. And while it's not a new housing type, it is, in a way, preserving housing choices. One of the things that, at least that I hear a lot in the news about the desire of folks to be able to age in place and to remain in their existing single-family homes. And this is a great example of that. In terms of master plan language about this district itself, there's some general language about accommodating single-family homes on mid-sized lots at a medium density, and that this district is generally located within older and well-established neighborhoods. Again, I don't think our application is in conflict with that. And so, as I look at this application, I don't see substantial detriment to the zone plan. I don't see substantial detriment to the public good as a result of the location of the addition, the trees, et cetera. And so overall, we're really here to talk to you and to propose a building addition that's 393 square feet over the maximum FAR, which again is about 2 parking spaces in size. And that addition is going to have very limited visibility due to its location, due to the trees. We're not triggering other deviations. Again, we're well within the lot coverage, as well as the building height and the setbacks. And frankly, I think the end result is going to be a more modern home that can accommodate one of the township's long-term residents and helping them to age in place.
No further questions.
Board questions? Board professionals?
I have no questions, and that was well stated by Ms. McManus.
Thank you. Members of the public, questions for Ms. McManus on her planning testimony? All right, seeing none. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much. We have no further witnesses. For the reasons stated by Ms. McManus, we think there's ample evidence to allow the board to find that special reasons exist to justify the requested FAR variance, and that there's ample evidence to find that the negative criteria have been met as well. For those reasons, we respectfully request that the board approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich, you want to take us through any stipulations?
Sure, well, they've stipulated to the conditions that are in the joint review memo by our planner and engineer, including that, so that would be a condition to comply with what's in the review memo.
Yep.
And that would include an individual operating permit, which would have to be issued prior to the issuance of a construction permit. And to amend the plan to clarify that it is a minor development, not a major development. And really, it's paragraphs 3 through 6 of the conclusion of the letter of the
And Mr. Osterman, anything you didn't hit on, we're going to assume you do agree with in this joint planning engineering?
No, we did not have any problems with that
Perfect.
memo.
And with that, and with those stipulations, we're going to open up deliberations. I'm going to send it down to Mr. Seacat. Your thoughts, please.
My thoughts seems pretty simple. I'm sorry you're in a position to have to build this addition, but I have no reason to not support it.
Thank you, Mr. Gasky.
Yeah, I have not a single issue with this application. The only issue I have is that you had to come before this board in the first place in order to remain in your home.
I think the applicant and all of your experts did a great and expeditious job of outlining the application. I'm strongly in favor of the application.
I'll echo what he said. You did a great job on the application, and I'm all for it.
As you heard, Mr. Osterman, you always do a great job. Thank you for bringing really top-flight, top-shelf people to our board. You save us time. You reflect on our township very well, and I do appreciate that. And with that said, I just want to put on the record very clearly, on the FAR, the D4 variance, the site can certainly accommodate any problems associated with this application. There's certainly no substantial detriment. I wish the applicant had a better reason to be here. I wish your family the best of health and the best of times going forward. And certainly there's no substantial impairment or the intent or purpose of our township's master plan. So thanks again, sir. Mrs. Amin.
It's a simple application, or simple one variance only, so there's not too much of, it's kind of, there's no complication here, so I'm in favor of approving the application.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney.
I don't think I've got anything to add. I think everything was well said, and I'm also in favor of approving the application.
Mr. Corbett.
Yeah, first off, on a human level, I'm sorry to hear of your wife's conditions progression. Get with the emphasis that the ADA places on public structures having accessibility, I think it'd be pretty silly to deny a reasonable accommodation in your own home, so I'm definitely strongly in favor.
Thank you. All right, with that, open up to the board. It sounds like the board's will is towards approval. Do we have a motion to approve? Mr. Whiteley. Mr. Bongiorno has the second. If we could call a roll call vote, please. Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 All right.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Mr. Sack. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Osterman. All right, we have one more tonight. Good evening. We have 1015 North Shore Drive. Hi there.
Hello, good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Eileen Welsh. I'm the owner of property located at Block 607, Lot 3. Also,
Before we get too far, I'm going to swear you in first.
absolutely.
Do you have anyone else who's testifying? Or
No.
just you? Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
And for the record, just state your name, please.
Sure. Eileen Welsh, W-E-L-S-H.
Thank you.
So I am the owner of property located at Block 607, Lot 3, also known as 1015 North Shore Drive. My property is located in the R20 residential district. I am here before you because I'm seeking relief for setback variances. I have a side yard setback requesting of 11.4 feet on the north side of my residence and a 17.8 feet on the south side, where 20 feet is required in the R20 zone. And then because of that, a combined side yard setback, 29.2 feet, where 50 feet is required. And this is associated with a deck. So not the residence, but the deck that's attached to the house. I'd like to begin by first explaining the deck improvements that I'm about to talk about are already constructed.
Can we wait 1 second? Can we just check the jurisdiction to make sure proper notice has been served in this case?
Yes, so the applicant did present a proof of mailing on June 1st and publication in the newspaper on June 14th in proper form, so the board does have jurisdiction.
All right, great, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure, thank you, Board. So again, I'd like to first begin by saying I am here because the deck improvements have already been constructed. So when I reference prior versus existing, existing actually means the deck with the addition, what I'm seeking relief for today, just for clarity. By way of background, the prior deck was older. It sits above a floor, so the entrance to our house sits above the garage. So when you look at the house, you see the garage, the deck is above it. So it's pretty elevated, and for a while we were sitting on there, a family of 6, having dinner. It felt wobbly, so I said, let's knock it down and rebuild it. So we hired a contractor who came out, we asked to rebuild, same size, same location. We signed a contract with him. He said he was responsible for all the approvals. At that point, it was only building permits, right, because we're building within the same footprint, same size that we had existing. In connection with the permits, the contractor then filed our existing survey. So that causes some confusion because our existing survey was much older, and it depicted a portion of the deck on the north side of the house, which actually was no longer there. The prior owners had removed it because of disrepair, but it did still have prior deck ledger boards and footings intact. Everything else on the survey was accurate with regard to the existing conditions, including the front deck, which was to be replaced exactly where it is. During construction, the contractor recommended that the deck stairs on the south side of the house be revised to project outward. Reason being is because there was a conflict between the stairwell and the roof gutters. So our house is an A-frame, so when you walked up the deck the front door is not a typical front door. It's not, like I said, the deck was on the front of the house above the garage door is shut. People don't walk through your garage door to enter your house, so they walk around the house. So the entrance to the door was actually, the front entrance was on the side that you had to walk up a flight of deck stairs to get to. So we had understood that, he had recommended taking the existing deck, which was on that side of the house, and bumping it out a bit so that the staircase was outside of the deck as opposed to inverted, which if you looked at the house, you would never know that there was a set of stairs there. So he went ahead and did that, and then upon final inspection by the building department, disapproved because the plans did not match what was on file. So this is why I'm here before the board, seeking relief for these setback variances. So as previously indicated and outlined in your professional review letters, this is a simple variance application requiring side yard setbacks as well as the combined side yard setback variance. As requested by the professional's report, I'd like to now provide testimony in support of the variances as well as the necessary planning proofs. Strict application of the 20-foot side yard setback does not allow for reasonable functionality of the deck and efficient access to the residence. The property consists, as I discussed, as an A-frame house where the main level sits above on the second floor with the garage underneath. Additionally, the main entrance of the house is on the south side, so entrants need to walk along the side of the house and then up a flight of stairs to what serves as our front door. Since this is an A-frame house, the roof extends all the way down to the deck, so when you walk up the deck, the roof extends all the way down and goes below the deck when you walk up. So if I'm walking up the deck, the roof will land here, and it's extended about an arm's length out, so it cuts into the portion of the deck. Under the prior configuration of the deck, the stairs leading up to the main entrance were inverted into the deck, so oftentimes people pulling into the driveway would look at the house and not know where to walk into. There's no front entrance, the garage door is shut, so they would walk to the left of the house where there was no deck, no door there, walk around or back around, and then up the steps to the side of the deck there. Additionally, when you walked up the steps, you had to stay to the far left. Otherwise, you would hit your head on the gutters unless you looked up before you went up and saw that the gutter overhang was going to be protruding about halfway over. Under the new deck configuration, the stairway is now readily visible under the front of the house, from the front of the house. So when you pull into the driveway, you can see there's a set of stairs that lead up to the house. It's located away from the side where the roof and the gutters interfere with access. The result is a much safer, more efficient, and aesthetically pleasing design. Additionally, the deck on the north of the property provides a more symmetrical layout. So under the prior condition, the deck wrapped around only to the right with the A-frame right here, where now it would be symmetrical. So it's more aesthetical improvement to the overall house, which is consistent to the original construction actually of the house. Granting the requested variances to permit the deck encroachment would not result in any material detriment to the surrounding properties and neighborhood, and would provide an aesthetic and functional improvement. Additionally, if you look at the aerial and the tax map on page 2 of the professional's report, you'll see that this is a through lot where my neighbors are located on either side of me, are further set back from the house. I did meet with both of them. I got both of them to provide letters, which are included in your packet, where they supported the application of the variance.
Those are the neighbors to the left and right of you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
So first, let me tell you something about letters. The board can't accept letters.
Okay.
Because you can't cross-examine the letter.
Okay.
But we can accept your testimony.
Okay.
So is it your testimony that you discussed this plan and this application with your neighbors?
I did.
And they had no objection?
Correct. Thank you. Lastly, I have reviewed the joint professionals report, and I agree to comply with all of the conditions or requirements and satisfy all of them as part of resolution compliance.
All right, I have a question.
Sure.
So Sunset Lake is an interesting part of Bridgewater. It's very unique.
Yes.
It was designed, I think, originally to be kind of a city escape for the, summertime residents of New York City. There's a homeowners association involved here.
There is. There's a board.
Are they aware of your situation / building?
Yes, I sit on the board.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yes.
So your construction, has that triggered any review by them? Do they have any comment on this, but they are aware of it?
They are aware of it. They received a copy of my notice as part of the notice requirements. They're on the 200-foot list, and I've discussed it with them, and they have no objection.
And you're on the actual board, so you're elected?
I am, yes.
And your term is 1 year?
It's 2 years, and I think I just started my second term. Yes.
Thank you very much. Other board questions? Board professionals?
This is a unique case where we're looking at something that's already constructed, which is good because you get to see how it was done, but it's interesting in how you're, considering it. However, I think that Ms. Welsh did a wonderful job testifying on her own behalf, and I think the pictures, the before and after pictures do tell, a bit of a story. It sounds like it's not just aesthetic, it's function as well for the home. And it is an interesting property as well in that it's through and that it's an A-frame home. But I think, visually, it looks better. And it's also unique in that the other neighbors, I think they have a North Shore address, but they actually have closer frontage along Lakeview on the other side. So there's really no impact as far as the side yard setbacks that have been encroached upon because the setbacks are so offset from each of the adjacent neighbors. So I have no further comments, and I think she did a wonderful job.
I have a question, and I may have missed it if I wasn't maybe hearing properly. How did this start in the first place if you didn't have?
The intent was to replace the deck exactly the way it was, and then the contractor had said, well, you've got conflict going on here, and that, you just all of a sudden they're making all these great suggestions, and you're like, of course, yes. So the conflict on the right side was due to the staircase, and he noticed it, we always felt it, but we'd lived with it. as the prior owners did for many years. When you walk up the steps, the roof overhangs and it takes away about half of the staircase. So, for instance, when we moved there, we had to get a fridge, and we purposely ordered it after the deck was done so we can get it into the house, because otherwise there's no way to, there's too much narrowness with the entrance.
Where was the entrance initially?
So it's still the same. So when you look at the house, it's to the right, you walk around and you walk up the deck steps. Now the deck steps are sticking out of the deck area, the deck, where they were inverted before. So you would have to walk into the deck and then walk up the stairs. So I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough.
So it was widened if you were looking at the house, it was widened on the right-hand side?
Yes.
For the stairs?
Correct.
Was it widened on the left-hand side for?
The left-hand side did not exist. It existed at some point, but it was demolished. There were certain portions that were still there, but probably wouldn't have helped us. So that's why I need a variance on that side as well. And there's no entrance over there. That's more of just to give better traffic flow to the house. So there's a staircase that goes down the back of that, so the only way to get into the house is up the right-hand steps, and then you're kind of locked in, but then you could still continue around to the backyard on the left side, just like an easier flow of traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment. So you basically modified a difficult situation.
Yes,
That's my interpretation.
exactly.
Not to put blame on your contractor, but you were under the assumption your contractor filed permits, which he did.
Yes.
With the township, was working under those permits.
Yes.
And made field changes, and you were under the assumption he had refiled new permits.
I was surprised when he said that it was approved and it was fine to go, and
Which is why we have an inspection process, and our inspector did a very
Yes.
good job in picking this up. It's very, for just a deck, they did a great job.
Yep.
But unfortunately for you, your
Yes.
contractor didn't do their job, and so that's, I think, the position you're in now.
right.
I always, like to make teachable moments, being a dad sometimes. And a lot of people do listen to our streams. What could you have done differently that way have prevented this? Because, you had to post $6,000 in escrow and you had
Did,
additional.
and order a new survey,
And you had to sit with
slope
us on a Tuesday
research.
night, and these gentlemen here are with you. They're being well
They
behaved.
are, we talked about it at length, and
what
they
did-
even said if they ask for public comment, they will come up and
We can
talk.
swear them in if they want to testify.
There's rules and a code in place for a reason, and you can't always rely on, just anyone. You should do your own due diligence.
So don't always listen to your contractor. Maybe take a
Correct.
walk to our land use office, talk with
Yes.
our township professionals, which are at a window, they're open to the
Yep.
public. So it's just,
I've established a great relationship with Nancy, who is amazing.
yes, Nancy keeps us running.
Yes.
She is, but
Yes.
that would be my advice for residents out there looking to
Yeah.
do construction. Stop in, you pay
Yes.
taxes, these people are here, you pay for them.
Yes.
They're a resource. Sometimes it's better timing than others, but, usually she tries to really bend over backwards for residents to make them kind of, decode what a contractor says, and it can be
Correct.
complicated. We're all busy, we have families, and I feel bad for you that you
Yeah.
go through this. You did a great job. I'm going to open it up to members of the public that would like to speak for or against or question your testimony you provided tonight. I think those guys are with you, so we're going to close that
Yep.
portion. Rich, any instructions before we deliberate?
No, I just want to point out, there's 3 variances, there's 2 side yards, one on each side. One's at 11.4 feet, the other 17.8 feet, where 20 feet is otherwise required. And the combined side yard is 29.2 or 50 is required. The property is undersized quite a bit. It's a 21,768 square foot lot, where 50,000 is required, and yet it's.
Yeah, I had the wrong zone.
R20. It's an R20.
Quick clarification,
Oh, that
the
was the
application
R50
did
on
say
the
R50.
plan?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's going to be a condition, right? We're going.
You're going to have to resubmit that.
I will.
Yeah, we're going to have that modified.
I think my memo included something to that effect.
You did.
And so that's just like a housekeeping matter. When you come in for resolution compliance, the plans will be updated to show a zoning table, not to put through more work, but, the zoning table's done in my memo, so your professional can
Yep.
resubmit with that. And it is R20 zone, Rich, so some of the variants that are listed on the application are actually less than what they show up in that table, because the R50 zone has more onerous regulations than the R20.
And we're good?
No, we're good.
All right, we're going to open up deliberations unless you have anything further.
Nothing further.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's start with you, Jim.
Yeah, I just want to make actually a funny comment. I've been on the board probably a little over 10 years now, and many people I know, because I'm on other boards also, know I'm on the zoning board. And they often come up and ask me a question, do I need a permit? Do I have to do this and that? And I said, you know what, I'm not even going to offer an opinion. We have a zoning office. Go down. Even if you want, you could say that you spoke to me. Go see Roger, Nancy, or anybody down there. They'll gladly work with you. And this is, like I said, you started and then found out differently. People say, even the simplest of things, I said, I'm not going to answer it. I said, you can call or go down, they'll help you. But I have no problem. It looks fine what you did. I'm all for it, so.
Thank you.
I'm in agreement with Jim. Certainly, there's no detriment to the public good here. There's no impairment to the intent or purpose of the zone. I wish you a lot of luck, and
Thank you.
move it on down. Mrs. Amin, your thoughts?
I agree with all the previous comments, and I'm in favor of approving.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney?
I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you, sir. Good bit.
I'm also in favor.
All right, we have here Mr. Bongiorno.
I'm in favor of the applicant.
Mr. Diaski?
As am I.
I'm in favor. I don't see the neighbors here to object, so I will support it.
Board has will to approve. Looking for a motion? I move. Mr. Widley, Mr. Bongiorno is the second. And Roger, if we could just call that. Yes?
Yes.
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 All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
You, great job.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen. All right, with that, we have our next meeting on my calendar. I have it as July 9th. Let's just double check with Roger. July 9th, our next meeting, Roger?
Yes, July 9th, I checked, Nancy's going forward, there is an application, but her handwriting is questionable. It looked like
Iyer Van Kateswarren.
Okay.
The last name.
It's the residential?
Residential application. It's the only one we have on right now.
Okay. All right, great. Then, unless there's any other board business, we're gonna adjourn, and our next meeting is gonna be July 9th in this room, 7 PM. And that was Mr. Widley. Mr. Bongiorno is the second. Have a great 4th of July, everyone, and thanks for your help tonight.
You haven't been to school.
You don't think they're like there?
It wasn't too bad.
No, that was easy. Yeah.
I'll call it by the end.
Yeah, they were easy.